You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph, and a few hours ago, we finished watching the final day of 49ers training camp. It was day 12, and I have all of the details from today's practice. We'll go over them today. But first, just a little bit of news to go through. What's going on, Ty? Yes, you were the first one on here. Before we get into anything, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video because we are trying to get to 15 likes on this video. Let's see if we can break that today. 15 likes. Let's go. All right, let's go through some news really quickly. So Leon O'Neal, we heard yesterday he had a sprained groin. I actually saw it happen yesterday during practice, and he was getting looked at on the sideline. Well, we heard today that he was waived by the 49ers, and he would revert to injured reserve if he were to clear waivers. So we'll see if that happens. I got a feeling there's a good chance that Leon O'Neal clears waivers. He's an undrafted free agent, and it's not like there was a ton of buzz about O'Neal during camp. So I think it's a good chance that he ends up on the 49ers IR. And, we'll see what happens from there. Before the 49ers waived him, I kind of saw him as a, decent practice squad candidate. So make that what you will. All right. So as a corresponding move, the 49ers also signed cornerback Ken Crawley. And really, this move is more so because there's a number of injuries to the cornerback group. Today, we heard Kyle was on KNBR, and he said that cornerback Travis Ward has a muscle strain, and he's going to be out the next 2 weeks. The team isn't concerned about it. It sounds very minor, and he is expected to be ready for the season opener. And that is, of course, if they keep him out, get him some rest, don't risk any more injury, he's going to be ready for that week 1 game. So, hey, that's all right with me. There's no reason to risk further injury. And if it's something minor, then that's all right too. Emmanuel Mosley, as we already knew yesterday, he's been missing the last few practices with his hamstring. So he was also out today. And again, the younger cornerbacks are getting a chance to show what they have. And I mean, it's not so bad for guys like Ambry Thomas, who maybe could use these extra reps and see what they could do with them. So we're going to see a lot of these young cornerbacks, Kadar Holman as well. And I'm sure Crawley will get worked in there on Friday when the 49ers play the Packers in their first preseason game. We saw Darqueze Dennard, who had been playing out of the slot as a nickel corner, play a little on the outside today. So that's interesting. But again, I mean, probably because they're short on corners, so they're maybe just moving some guys around. Samuel Womack as well got a lot of opportunities as the nickel corner. And Samuel Womack has been looking good. Like, every practice, he makes a play or two where you're like, hey, golf clap. He's coming along very nicely. And even if Darqueze Dennard is a starting nickel on this defense, I see a path forward for Samuel Womack to be that guy, in the future. So very good development that we've seen from Womack these past couple of weeks. Definitely something to feel good about. Let's talk about Ambry. Ambry Lenore, Kadar Holman, they got some extra time today with the ones, and Castro Fields got some time with the twos today as well. McGlinchey, Kyle Shanahan said that he was going to play a little bit on Friday, although Brad of the SF Niners he noticed that he looked uncomfortable during team periods today. Shout out to Brad for keeping an eye on the trenches always looking at the offensive line, and caught that. And so McGlinchey ended his day a little early. Now, we know he's coming back from his injury. They're taking it slow with him. So there might be some days where, there's a little bit of discomfort, as these guys get ramped up. So hopefully nothing too alarming. And the rest going into Friday's game should help. And who knows? Maybe he ends up not playing on Friday. Yeah, Ty says, got to keep an eye on these DBs on Friday for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's some interesting guys there. I want to see better reps out of Ambry Thomas. Lenore, Diamador Lenore is someone who I'm excited about. He's someone who has been making plays, throughout training camp, very active with his hands. And Kadar Holman has been looking pretty good as well, veteran presence as well. So, it should be interesting to get a look at some of these depth guys. I never complain about that. McGlinchey has leg fatigue, says Ty. Hey, man, just give him some rest. It worked for Trey Lance, apparently. Just, put some ice on it, son. Eric Armstead, he could return to practices during joint practices next week, is what Kyle Shanahan said. So that's good. But it doesn't seem like the defensive line needs much help. They have been wreaking havoc on this offensive line in the first team all throughout camp, and that really continued today as well. So, and if Eric Armstead wants to rest a little bit longer, that would be okay with me, but also very excited to have him back. Ty asks, who do you think starts at DB on Friday? Well, based on a lot of what we saw today at camp, my guess would be Diamador Lenore and Kadar Holman, or Ambry Thomas and Kadar Holman. But definitely Kadar Holman on one side. So we shall see. The thing is, Lenore and Kadar Holman are usually on the same side, on the right side of the field. So that's why I say it might be weird if both of those guys are on the field at the same time. Usually it's been Ambry Lenore or we'll see. Lenore can sometimes switch sides, so it's possible we see any of those three guys out there starting on Friday. Greenlaw was out there today, but he was in a blue no contact jersey, so he didn't participate in team periods. Not sure what is going on with him. I mean, maybe a concussion. I don't want to speculate, but he was in the blue no contact. But he participated in drills, just not the 11 on 11. So hopefully nothing too serious for Greenlaw. It didn't seem like it. The AG Fox says, I care more about the Vikes practices than any preseason game. Yes, Vikings practices are going to be interesting and definitely entertaining. I'm actually a little disappointed that we're not going to have Charvarius Ward out there. Maybe Emmanuel Mosley, not sure. I don't think we'll see Mosley there either. But I'm disappointed because I want to see Justin Jefferson going against those guys, and that's another iron sharpens iron kind of opportunity for this team. And instead, we're going to get, Ambry Thomas maybe getting smoked by Justin Jefferson. But I'll be at the Vikings practices, so I'll have some updates on that. And of course, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I'll be having some updates there as well. All right. No Elijah Mitchell today, and I didn't see Jeff Wilson Jr. either, although maybe Jeff Wilson Jr. just missed the team period, but they're most likely just getting a rest day. No worries. It was kind of the Trey Sermon show today. He had a great day. He broke off multiple nice gainers, and he seems to be coming along very well, and has improved as training camp has gone on. So I currently see Trey Sermon as being in the mix for, along with Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., as, one of those guys who are going to be part of the regular rotation on this team because he looks really good out there. And I think 3 of those guys are going to get most of the carries throughout the year. Yeah, the AG Fox says the RB cuts are going to be rough. Yes, they absolutely are. But I think out of everyone, it might be JaMycal Hasty that might be on the outs. Really, the only edge that JaMycal Hasty has is the fact that he's been on the team before and that he knows the offense. But Jordan Mason, who Ty says he hopes makes the team, Jordan Mason has been looking really good. And I think JaMycal Hasty's been feeling the heat. So really the only thing that would save Hasty's spot at this point, not that Hasty's been terrible. He hasn't. It's just Mason just looks like he belongs. And yeah, I mean, I want him to make the team too, but roster politics are really the only thing on Hasty's side that would keep him on the roster. But we'll see what happens with Jordan Mason and JaMycal Hasty. But obviously, Trey Sermon, TDP, those guys are locks to make the team. No question about that. TDP looked good today as well. He got some additional run since Mitchell and Jeff Wilson Jr. were out during 11-on-11s. So, yeah. The AG Fox says, Hasty to Miami or Jets. And Ty says, you laugh, but that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think Mike McDaniel would definitely pick him up. If not, Saleh would probably like JaMycal Hasty. I mean, he's a good running back, The 49ers have the great fortune and honestly the tough task of having so many good running backs that when it comes down to cut downs, you end up, cutting someone who could very well, be a starter or a very good backup in the league. So yeah, I mean, Hasty probably not a starter, but you know what I mean? He would definitely, another team would be happy to have him or someone like that. So yeah, good point. Anthony Lynn has no long relationship with Hasty, just saying. That's true, but I mean, that could be said with some of the other running backs as well. So, but yeah, I mean, it could be Hasty on the outs. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, how these guys perform in preseason could also be a good indicator. And I feel like Hasty and Mason have been kind of neck and neck. But again, as far as performance goes, Mason has had the upper hand. So we'll see. Let's talk about Trey Lance, though. Trey Lance, he was 9 of 18 today, which I hate looking at the numbers because it doesn't give the full picture. I will say he wasn't as good as yesterday. He was really good yesterday, but I thought he still looked fine. So 9 of 18, completed 50% of his passes. You might be thinking that's not too great, but I feel like I still saw some really good things from him. And I will explain. I will elaborate on that. So some of the highlights of the day for Trey Lance today and in these last few practices, today, right off the bat, he was challenging the defense downfield. In his very first sequence, he attempted 2 deep passes downfield to the right side. And, really just kind of setting the tone and putting pressure on the defense. The first pass was a deep pass downfield off a play action, incomplete to Deebo Samuel along the right sideline. It was thrown slightly ahead of Deebo Samuel. He had to reach out, and it's kind of like the one from yesterday where you can either call it a drop or you can say Lance should have just thrown a better ball and blame Trey Lance. And both can be true, right? Like it could both be a better throw and a drop. But I think that's just part of the context that's important to have. I thought it was a fine throw, and it certainly still could have been caught. So just unfortunate it didn't get completed. And it seems like, so yesterday I was like, the Trey Lance and Deebo Samuel connection looks good. Today, it didn't look that that polished quite yet, and so those guys still getting some timing sorted out between the two. And obviously, we know that Ayuk has the edge on the time that he has had working with Trey Lance this entire offseason. And Deebo Samuel and Lance are really trying to squeeze in as much time as they can together in these few weeks before the season begins. And so I really hope that they can get, a little more extra time in these next couple of days, next couple of weeks, maybe staying a little after practice. I don't know, to get some of that timing, but you're not at this point going to replicate the type of chemistry that Trey Lance and Ayuk have just because there was so much time that went into that this entire offseason. So I don't think Lance and Deebo are going to be on that level quite much this year, but they can still be serviceable to each other, of course, and get on at least the same page. All right. Also, in his very first sequence, Trey Lance threw a downfield pass targeting Malik Turner, but that one was incomplete as well. Diamador Lenore committed the PI, and there was actually another play that had a no-call PI committed by Holman on McLeod, again going deep. So he was attempting the deep throws, which, I liked, and I liked that the very first pass was, a deep attempt. And it just shows that he's not afraid, and it shows that, he wants to take these risks. And practice is where you take those risks. And as I mentioned, they were, one had the PI, the other one, you could have called it a drop. So not necessarily the wrong choice. Some of these are going to fall eventually for Trey Lance and, his receivers. So another thing that I see out of Trey Lance, he continues to find his checkdowns. And to me, that's a really important thing and a very underrated thing for a young quarterback to be able to do. It may not seem like a big deal because it's like, oh, that's just part of playing quarterback. Well, there's a lot of guys that come into the league and don't have that type of discipline to, not scramble at the first sight of any pressure or at the first sight of your guys not being open. Find your check down because more often than not, it's there. You just have to calmly find it. And it seems like Trey Lance is understanding that in these last couple of days. He's really developed that part of his game, and it just looks like he's more comfortable hitting those checkdowns, which I find to be very encouraging. He hit Kyle Juszczyk a few times on the checkdowns. One was on a Jimmy Ward blitz off the left side, and then another where he rolled left with Bosa chasing right after him after Bosa beat Justin School. He hit Juice on the check down there. Crisis averted. So yeah, like I'm seeing good things out of Trey Lance. AG Fox says Trey is doing fine. I don't worry unless I start 2-4. Should start 4-2 minimum, bearing major injuries. Yeah, I'm not worried about Trey Lance either. I think it's all part of the growing process, and this team is going to be absolutely stacked at every other position. And it's going to be able to insulate Trey Lance. He could make some mistakes, but he's going to make some good plays as well. So, yeah, I'm not too worried either. Ty says a lot of QBs have made a living just by hitting the check down receiver. Hey, that's true. Nate Sudfeld has actually been great at that. Not that he can't do other things. He's been really solid, but he's been especially efficient. If you look at his completion percentage, and not just the completion percentage, but if you look at what he's done throughout training camp, he's been really efficient because he's comfortable throwing the check down, throwing the quick short throws. So that's it's not a bad way to make a living. A completion is a completion. Ty says it's smart. Pick up those 5 to 6 yards and move on. Yep, absolutely. There's no reason to give the defensive line more time to come after you, especially when you're going up against this defensive line. They've been very scary. But yeah, I mean, the check down thing is a very good thing that I see out of him today. In these last few days, he has been making good decisions on the zone read. He had several keepers today where it was the right choice, with the exception of maybe one where he should have probably handed it off to Trey Sermon because Trey Sermon had some space and Trey Lance ended up getting a short no gainer. But besides that, a lot of his keepers went for, good yardage, had success with it, often getting to the second level. So that's another good thing. Mastering the zone read is going to be a huge part of the success of this offense. And I don't think they'll probably sprinkle that in a few times a game. It won't be the bread and butter of Trey Lance, but it's going to make a difference, and it's going to make it easier to move the ball when you can get those going. So I think he makes good decisions on those. And these last couple practices, we've been seeing him run the ball more. And I kind of have to wonder if, the first week or so, maybe they didn't want him to run as much because they wanted him to get used to throwing from the pocket. It's certainly always a possibility. You don't want guys to get dependent on, always rushing the football, always scrambling. So if that was the case, bravo. I mean, I'm not opposed to that sort of plan. And honestly, I think it did help Trey Lance to, the first week of practice, get used to sitting in the pocket, moving in the pocket, rolling out when he needs to, and now throwing in a new wrinkle and seeing some more runs happen. I think that was a great way of doing it, if that was a plan. I have to think maybe it was. But overall, I mean, Trey Lance looked fine today. I don't think he looked bad. In red zone, he moved the ball well, I thought. On his first red zone sequence, again, moving the ball, and the drive ended on a Trey Sermon touchdown. And on his second red zone sequence, he had an attempt to Javon Jennings that was broken up by Samuel Womack. Again, Samuel Womack, gonna hear his name. I'm sure we'll hear his name at least once in one of these, preseason games. He has a knack for making plays. He had a pass breakup on this pass from Trey Lance to Javon Jennings in the red zone. And it was a fine throw. It was just a way better play by Samuel Womack. So definitely something to look forward to in Womack. But Lance's best throw of the day was probably to Brandon Ayuk. No one's surprised there. These guys have a great connection. It was to Ayuk towards the left on a deep out, beautifully placed ball. And again, these guys are just on the same page. They have a good feel for one another. And yeah, I thought that was Lance's best throw, and it was a beauty. I almost hope that the 49ers social media page posts that one. But you know what? They'll probably post the one that Nate Sudfeld had throwing to, it was Purdy. Brock Purdy threw a nice ball to Brandon Ayuk. But Brandon Ayuk was going up against the third team defense. Like, come on, man. Of course that's going to be unfair. And it was against Quantrez Knight. Like, of course Brandon Ayuk's going to hit that every time. So, I mean, it was a nice highlight reel play. A good throw by Brock Purdy. I'm sure maybe the 49ers social media team will post that one. And that one ended up being a touchdown by Ayuk. Easy money. The one thing that I continue to see from Trey Lance, and it's something I've mentioned, and at this point it's kind of minor, still seeing the inaccuracy on the short outside throws, where he tends to throw either high or too ahead of his receiver, like leading them a little too far. He missed Tyler Kroft today on one of those pass thrown a little too ahead of Kroft on the outside. And then he also missed Sermon outside the numbers on a check down one time. He did hit Juwan Jennings on a quick out, though, today. So for what it's worth. But I would like to see some more work on that. Maybe that's the one thing he's going to maybe that will be the consistent inconsistency that he has this year. Those outside throws. Who knows? But he has some time to work on it. I think he'll get better at that as one preseason goes on and also as the season progresses as well. So as my good friend Jordan, in front of the pod, as he pointed out, though, the good thing about him being inaccurate is the way he is inaccurate, high or ahead of the receiver where no defender can get it. And maybe that's the thing for Trey Lance, maybe because it's on the, shorter side of the line. He is maybe overcompensating a little bit, trying to get the ball to somewhere where the defender won't get it, but maybe doing too much with it. So he has to find that fine line and that happy medium between putting it in a spot where the defender can't reach it and putting it where your receiver can reach it too. So that's he'll get there. It'll take some time, but he'll get there. If you guys don't have any other questions on Trey Lance today, I'm going to move on to some other guys today. I'm going to talk about the defense really quickly because they were outstanding again today. Really excited to see these guys going up against someone other than Trey Lance, right? Because I want Trey Lance to look good, and I enjoy it much more when these guys are, beating up on another quarterback. So, Kamiko Turay, he had an incredible day today. Jordan had him with 5 sacks today. Very disruptive. And his best move is the spin move. And he's been consistently beating guys in one-on-ones with his spin move. And, he has other moves as well, but that's like his bread and butter, which, gets him a 1 rep more often than not. So Turay is looking good. Another guy to look forward to on this defensive line. He's going to be part of the rotation. Of course, they have a lot of guys on this defensive line that are ready to feast. And Turay may be on the lower end or on the totem pole, I should say. He's lower on the totem pole in this rotation, but if he could keep this up, and certainly if he can do this in the regular season in a consistent basis, like he can move up that totem pole really quickly. So based on what I'm seeing, I feel like he'll have no trouble getting there at some point this season. Fred Warner, I mean, come on. What else can you say about Fred Warner? I mean, he's good like every day, but there's some days where like he's especially good. Today was one of those days. He was especially good. And on the first sequence of the first team 11 on 11s, he was all over the place. He was in on like every play, it seemed like. I'll just go over them really quick. So the first play for Trey Lance on that downfield throw to Debo. The second one was a handoff to Sermon to the right. Fred Warner was on that tackle. Third play was TDP, handoff to the left. Fred Warner was on that tackle, and that one went for like a short or no gain. He was all over it. And the play after that was a handoff to Trey Sermon up the middle. Fred Warner was in on that one. I think a few other guys were in on that too. It was a short gain. And yeah, man, he was just wreaking havoc as he does. And again, I can't wait to see him do this against an offense that isn't ours, I think I'd enjoy it a lot more. He also had a sick pass breakup where he jumped right in front of a strike from Lance to Kittle, forced the incompletion. It was a good throw from Lance, but Warner was just all over it, and he was able to get a hand on it, force the incompletion. So All right, that's enough about Warner because we already know this man's always going to be on QB's necks and is always going to be good. Nick Bosa as well. He's another guy. But like today, it was another day for Nick Bosa that it was so good that I have to mention it because, again, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, kind of guys who have good days every day that they play, right? But when they have especially good days, I feel like I got to bring it up. Again, one of those days for Nick Bosa. He was an absolute menace in team periods. He was a disruptive game wrecker. This offensive line and Trey Lance was having a hard time whenever he got free, and it seemed like he was doing that quite often today. And I just feel like he can just smell the football, and it's so close that he can taste it. And maybe that's what he was just on another level today, even for Nick Bosa standard. So, I mean, that's another guy we're, of course, very excited to see. But, I hope in these preseason games he doesn't play much, if at all, because why risk the injury, right? That guy's ready. He'll be ready week 1, no doubt. Javon Kinlaw, he's been looking good. He's continued looking good today. And he's actually fast as hell, I realized. Today there was a play where Trey Sermon had a run to the outside and Javon Kinlaw chased this man down, and I thought he was a linebacker. That's how fast Kinlaw was moving. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Matilda, but the principal, Miss Trenchbull, that's what I kind of imagine Javon Kinlaw looking like when he's chasing after someone, and it's a scary sight. I'm just going to play this really quick. This is what Javon Kinlaw looks like to opposing offenses. Just absolutely destroying guys and running fast as hell. So that was impressive out of Javon Kinlaw. I did not know he can reach that gear, to be honest with you. I think he's bearing health, right? That's always been the issue for Javon Kinlaw. It's never been a question about, is he talented? He's always been very talented. That's why they drafted him, but it's always the health that's been an issue for him. So bearing health, this is going to be a huge year for Javon Kinlaw if he can put it all together. He seemed like a guy that's ready to take that next step and take on increased responsibility, with DJ Jones being out. And, I'm looking forward to it just based on what I've seen throughout training camp. Javon Kinlaw, the 8th continent. The man is huge. Yeah. I mean, he looks big out there. And one thing I pointed out I tweeted this yesterday is not only is he huge, but I realized how long his legs are. He has really long legs, shorter torso, and I feel like the long legs kind of helps him like drive off the snap, get a really nice push off the line. And obviously it helps him with his strides too, because like I said, he was hauling ass today. Let's talk about one-on-ones really quickly before we wrap it up. Ryan, whoa, did I get to 1.25 subscribers? Did I reach it? I was at 1.24. Ryan says, congrats on 1.25. Strag, let's help the channel to 1.5 subscribers. Yeah, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys that have subscribed. And I will have a giveaway. So I haven't been home, right? Because I've been, covering camp. And as soon as I get home, I'm going to get a Deebo Samuel item that I can give away. So, stay tuned. People who are subscribed to the channel, not only are you going to be rewarded with great content, but also the chance of getting some awesome, giveaway items. And so Deebo Samuel, as promised, I said after he signed his extension, I was going to do a giveaway for a Deebo item, either a jersey or like a mini helmet, something else. But I'm going to do that. So once I get home, I actually fly out of Santa Clara today. So I'll be back home tomorrow, and I'll get on that. So you guys stay tuned. And like I mentioned, I'm going to be at the joint practices next week in Minnesota. So you guys keep it locked, subscribe, and like this video because I'm trying to get to 15 likes on this video. All right, let's talk one-on-ones. One-on-ones. This is my favorite part of the day. One-on-ones. So let's see here. Let's see. Let me get all my notes. Where did I put that? All right, here we go. All right, so first we had 80. I'm trying to find my notes where I have the guy's name. Oh, I dropped it. All right, sorry. All right, we had Tay Martin. Tay Martin beat out. It was either, I couldn't see the numbers, kind of too far. It was either Quantrez Knight or Taylor Hodgins. I think it was Taylor Hodgins who Tay Martin beat. And Tay Martin's been shining here and there. He's looking better as well. Definitely, he's not going to make the roster. The 49ers are just too deep at receiver, but he's going to be a fine practice squad player with an opportunity to, make the roster in, the coming years as well. Then we had Troy Fumagalli beating Hufanga on the one-on-one. We had Malik Turner beating Darquez Denard. Let's see, 95. We had Drake Jackson beating Sam Schluter. I had Nick Zakelj winning a rep, but I didn't see who he won against. Then I had Kittle. Kittle in one-on-ones is like light work. That's why it was so impressive whenever Hufanga was going up against Kittle, because he'd give him a run for his money, and Hufanga would win some reps too. But today, George Kittle won a rep against Tarvarius Moore. Let's see. Who else is 40? Okay, so McCrary Ball won a rep on Kyle Juszczyk, but he was all over them. He was all over him like that probably would have been a PI. They didn't call it PI because I don't think they really do that during one-on-ones, but yeah, probably would have been a PI. Then I had 47. So Tyler Croft beating out Taylor Hawkins, I think. Let's see, 78. Sam Schluter won a rep against Curtis Robinson. Trent Williams won a rep against Ebukam. Trent Williams also easy money on the one-on-ones. Guy's just generational talent. And we had Dwelly beating out Huff. Huff as in Hufanga. It wasn't Huff's best day on the one-on-ones, but he had good 11-on-11 periods, so we'll forgive him for it. And overall, Hufanga's been doing really well in these practices. Then we had Aaron Banks winning a rep against Charles Omenihu. Good rep from him. And we had Drake Jackson winning a rep against Donovan West. Alex Barrett beating out Jake Brendel. Nick Zakelj with a good rep against Kerry Hyder. Nick Bosa beating out Mike McGlinchey. It's always a tough one. Nick Zakelj won another rep against Sam. Wait. Nope. I think I got that one wrong. I got the wrong numbers on that one. Spencer Burford won a rep against Charles Omenihu. Sam Ebukam won a rep against Justin School. Justin School leaving much to be desired, especially during one-on-ones. Colton McKivitz, nice rep against Kimoko Teray. And then Brunskill had a nice rep on Spence. I don't have his first name. I just got Spence. Then we had this new guy, the new offensive tackle that they got, and Jordan Mills, he's been having a good showing throughout camp so far. Like as soon as the next day, the next day after they had signed him, he was making plays, and we're like, "Who's that?" It's Jordan Mills. He had a good rep, one against Jordan Willis. Then we have Kevin Givens winning a rep against Jason Poe. Then we had Charles O'Menahue winning against Burford. Then Kimoko Toure again. This time he beat Colton McKivitz. See, there's Nick Zakelj with a nice rep on Atkins. Donovan West, good rep against 55. 55 is a new guy too. I didn't write his name. I don't have his name on my sheet. I meant to do that. But Keaton Sutherland won a rep. And it was either Kinlaw or Drake Jackson. I couldn't tell who it was, and I know that's not very helpful, but either one of those guys had a good rep on Spencer Burford. So that's what I saw during one-on-ones. Again, it's hard to see everyone on one-on-ones, so I did get a lot of offensive line one-on-ones today, so I got that. And are you guys interested in the gimme drill at all? So Lenore, he had an interception. He had a pass breakup that led to a McCrary ball interception. This isn't interceptions in 11-on-11 team drills, by the way. I just have to clarify that. This is the gimme drill. So it's not an actual interception in actual like plays that Trey Lance is throwing. It's Kyle Shanahan throwing, as I always say. George Odom got an interception. He's looked better these last couple days after starting really slow in training camp. He's looking better, making plays. You like to see that. Fred Warner got an interception as well. And then Quantrez Knight, Jeremiah Jamel, as well as Flanagan Fowles. So that's all I got on the gimme drill. Couldn't see that one the entire time. But guys, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for what I have today. I mean, look, if you guys have any questions, if you guys have questions, throw them in the comments really quickly before I end this live. Vivian says Jordan Mason is going to make the team. He's quick and has juke moves. So if I had to choose between JaMychal Hasty and Jordan Mason, I'd go JaMychal Hasty. As I've said, Mason has the edge talent-wise on JaMychal Hasty right now as far as what we've seen this training camp. But JaMychal Hasty has the roster politics edge over Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is a UDFA. JaMychal Hasty's been on the team, roster politics. So that's where it gets tough. Who's to say what will happen? Mason probably deserves to be on the team, but at the same time, this running back group is so deep. So are they going to keep 5 running backs? They probably should. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Vivian asks, Steph, is the 49ers going to play at Green Bay or is it going to be at home? Good question. Oh, wait, I think someone at. Thank you, AG Fox. They're at home. Yeah, because I didn't know. All right, guys. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'm gonna wrap this one up right now. I gotta finish packing. I gotta get to the airport in a few hours. But might be doing a live later, live from the airport, like I did on my way out here. So stay tuned for that. And really, what I want to do is give a overarching overview of the entire 2 weeks of training camp, and I'll be talking about that in my next live. So stay tuned. And I appreciate you guys so much tuning in. And this is my first time covering training camp. I was there for the entire 2 weeks, and it was really fun. And two, it's a entirely different experience, obviously, from just like seeing people's updates on Twitter. And people's updates in the past have really always kind of held us all together and given us all the information out of training camp. And I appreciate everyone who, works tirelessly to get all of this content out. Brad is one of those guys, all the, training camp. Jordan has been that guy this year as well. My guy Jay as well. All those guys have been great. But it's so much different when you're actually there. Like, because again, context matters in being able to see everything live in person. Like, there's so many things that you notice that aren't going to be captured in a tweet or, someone's article. Although I will say Jordan's articles are like so in depth and he has so much detail in them. So check out his stuff for Niners Nation. But for the most part, there's a lot of things that, you as fans looking at tweets about training camp, it's not the full picture. So I think I came away with a greater appreciation for, I don't know, just like taking everything that I see tweets about that I didn't see with my own eyes with a grain of salt, because there's most often more to, Trey Lance's stats, and there's more to an incompletion than, just those two players, right? This is entirely a team sport. And yeah, I mean, all right. Oh, wait, got one question. Appreciate you guys asking or saying safe travels. Appreciate you guys. But Ryan has a question. Sorry if I missed this. Did you have a favorite player at camp? I mean, the obvious answer is Brandon Ayuk. I think he is just far and away. He's made leaps and bounds in improving this year over last year. And again, from what we heard during training camp and his doghouse days, and he was kind of trending in that direction towards the end of last year as well. So I don't want to discredit him. So I'd say Brandon Ayuk and Talanoa Hufanga. And I say Talanoa Hufanga because I, finally getting to see, a lot of the time we hear coach speak and we hear people hyping players up just for them to not live up to that hype. We heard a lot about Talanoa Hufanga all throughout all through OTAs, talking about, he's a different guy. He looks more comfortable. D'Amico Ryans had a lot of good things to say about him. And, I was wondering, is that coach speak or is that legit? No, Talanoa Hufanga has looked really good in training camp. You can tell he's more comfortable. He has and he just gets after the ball, and he has his strengths, and those strengths work really well for him. And he had been the first guy out on the field every day, all but one day of, the training camp days. So he has incredible work ethic as well, which is incredibly hard to not root for. So he's probably been my other favorite player of camp, I would say. For a little biased because I've always been Hufanga Hive, but yeah, that's my guy. All right, Mariah says, hope to join you on next year at training camp. Yeah, Mariah, I mean, we'll be out there doing it again next year, and I appreciate you guys checking out this video. And again, I'll have an overall training camp recap in my next video, maybe from the airport. So stay tuned. Have a good rest of your night. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel.